The moment follow-through fails is not when you skip the workout. It's earlier. It's the instant your brain offers an excuse and you agree with it without examination. I have had a hard day. I'll start tomorrow. Missing one day won't matter. This is too hard. I'm not cut out for this. These thoughts feel like you. They arrive in your own voice, dressed in the language of reasonable self-care. But they are not you. They are impressions. And Epictetus, the ancient Stoic teacher, built an entire practical framework around learning to separate impressions from reality. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Consistency, from fitness to flourishing. In the last episode, I mentioned one of the 3 disciplines of Epictetus, the framework he designed to help the prokopton, the one making moral progress, train their mind, tame their desires, and navigate the friction of daily life. Today we'll look at how these 3 disciplines map almost perfectly onto the problem of a lack of follow-through. They turn what feels like a character defect into something more useful, a technical error you can identify, correct, and train past. The discipline of desire. The first discipline, the one I referenced yesterday, addresses what you want and what you fear. Epictetus argued that most human misery comes from a single error, desiring things outside your control. When follow-through fails, the failure often begins before the action. It begins in the desire. You want the outcome, the finished book, the fit body, the promotion. But the outcome is distant, uncertain, and outside your control. Your brain, overwhelmed by the gap between where you are and where you want to be, seeks certainty. You might think you procrastinate because you're lazy. More likely, you procrastinate because your brain defaults to its conditioning and what feels achievable right now. You end up doing what you know because that feels comfortable. The Stoic pivot is simple. Shift your desire away from the final result and place it entirely on your immediate effort. If your goal is to write a book, strip away the desire to publish a bestseller. You cannot control publishers, algorithms, or readers. Instead, make your sole desire, I want to sit at my desk for 30 minutes today and write words. This is what the floor accomplishes in the system we built over the last 3 episodes, 348, 349, and 350. This is what the crawl standard operationalizes, a minimum standard you can meet on your worst day. The desire is no longer pinned to an uncertain outcome. It's pinned to a concrete action that's in your power. You stop feeling anxious about a massive, uncertain future. You win the day simply by showing up. The discipline of action. The second discipline governs the impulses to act or not act. Epictetus argued that action must be driven by duty and reason, not fleeting moods. Follow-through fails when we wait to feel like it. Motivation is an intermittent emotional state with no fixed schedule. If the trigger is when I feel motivated, the behavior is a matter of chance or constant hype-up sessions that require ever greater efforts. The solution is what's called the Stoic reserve clause. You commit to the action while explicitly preparing for obstacles. For example, I am exercising tomorrow morning at 6:30 unless something physically prevents me. If you'd like to be more traditionally Stoic, you can end with fate permitting. The key phrase is physically prevents me. Feeling tired, lazy, or uninspired is not reason enough to skip the workout. The reserve clause is not a loophole, it's a filter. It separates genuine external obstacles from frivolous rationalization. As long as your commitment is consistent with your highest values and most important goals, you are duty-bound to follow through, unless something physically prevents you. For example, a traffic jam, illness, the house is on fire. Your mood is not an objective reason to break your word. The discipline of action turns the written protocol into a non-negotiable. The discipline of assent. The third discipline is where the battle is won or lost in real time. It governs how you judge impressions. An impression is anything that appears to your mind, a thought, a feeling, an impulse. The discipline of assent is the practice of not immediately agreeing with these impressions. You pause, you examine, you ask whether the impression corresponds to reality or is just your brain generating a permission slip. This is the no special pleading test, episode 346, applied at the level of thought. When the thought, I will just do this tomorrow, arrives, you do not accept it as a command. You stop and say, wait a minute, impression, let me see what you are. Then you test it. Is tomorrow genuinely better, or are you wanting to escape temporary discomfort? Tomorrow is an illusion. You only ever have power in this moment. The battle is often lost here. Many have never considered, let alone learned, that they can question their own thoughts. They treat every impulse as if it were a decision already made, that it's an accurate grasp of reality. The discipline of assent inserts a gap between the impression and the response. In that gap, you give yourself the opportunity to explore the accuracy of your thinking and make a better choice. The training cycle. Epictetus did not design these disciplines as theory. He designed them as a training program. And the training cycle he proposed is completely practical. It's over 2,000 years old, yet just as effective in navigating our modern challenges. The basis of this effectiveness and practicality comes down to what Epictetus taught his students. Begin quote. It isn't the things themselves that disturb people, but the judgments that they form about them. So accordingly, whenever we are impeded, disturbed, or distressed, we should never blame anyone else, but only ourselves, that is to say, our judgments. End quote. When you fail to follow through, do not treat it as a moral defect. Treat it as a technical error in your training. You either desired something outside your control, let a bad mood dictate your action, or believed a lie your brain told you. Identify which discipline failed. Note the error. Reset, train again. This is the same loop we built into the 5-component system of architectural consistency over the last 3 episodes. Observe, compare against the standard, act, receive feedback, adjust, repeat. The Stoics arrived at the same structure 2,000 years ago through a different door. The architecture is the same because human psychology does not change. The system keeps the behavior alive. The 3 disciplines keep the mind clear. Desire what you can control. Act on principle, not mood. Question every thought that suggests you quit. That is the framework. That's the training. If you are ready to upgrade the quality of your consistency, join the Act Score Challenge. Practice the precise daily reps that turn follow-through into a lifestyle. That's it for today. Catch you next time.